Hello, everybody. I am thrilled to be here today with historical fiction favorite and best-selling author Fiona Davis. Welcome to the Erudite Bibliophile with Wanderlust, Fiona.
That's quite a mouthful. I am thrilled to be here.
We are thrilled to have you here, and we're here today to talk about your new book, The Stolen Queen, right here. And so I was hoping that before we dove into questions, that for maybe the readers or viewers who are watching who haven't had a chance to read it, if you could just say a little bit about it, give a little book blurb for before we dive in.
Sure, yeah. So it's set at the Met Museum here in New York City, where I've lived for a long time. It's 1978, and it's part of it's from the point of view of a woman named Charlotte, who's a curator at the Met Museum in the Egyptian wing. And she's 60 years old. She's been there forever. She's very qualified and knows what she's doing. And she has unwillingly teamed up with a 19-year-old overeager assistant to the Met Gala named Annie in order to track down a stolen artifact. And part of it takes place in 1930s in Egypt when Charlotte was just a young woman. And it's about mothers and daughters and female friendships. And there are lots of secrets hidden away, and a deadly curse, of course, because it's Egypt. And yeah, I like to say it's a mix of glamour and mummies.
I love it. There you go. Glamour and mummies. Tune in. So I was going to say a lot of your books, you kind of have a famous signature where a lot of your books are set in famous New York City landmarks. And, from the, like this book, for example, is the Met, but you've also done Grand Central Terminal, Frick Museum, the Chelsea Hotel, the Barbizon, the Dakota, the list goes on and on. So can you tell us what famous New York City landmark you may have your eye on next for another book?
Yeah, sure. So it's one that is very little known. Even if I say the name to a group of New Yorkers, the majority of people in the room have never heard of it, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, that
It's
is so great.
right. It's so different from the Met, for example. So it's the oldest house in New York City. It's called the Morris Jumel Mansion. It's this beautiful white mansion with columns, looks like it belongs in Georgia somewhere, surrounded by gardens, and it's uptown on 160th Street. So not a lot of people, especially tourists, go up there. It's the oldest house, as I mentioned. And so George Washington used it as his headquarters for a few months during the Revolutionary War. But then later, this woman moved in. Her name was Eliza Jumel. She was born in the 1700s, the daughter of a prostitute in Rhode Island. And she
Wow.
moved to New York, and she worked as an actress first. And then she eventually became the richest woman in New York because she was so good at buying and selling real estate.
Okay, you have me hooked already.
Right. And on top of that, if you're a Hamilton devotee, which we all are, her second husband was Aaron Burr, but they
No.
divorced after a year because she didn't like the way he was spending all her money. And she hired as her divorce attorney Alexander Hamilton Jr.
Oh my God.
So it's
Once
really
again, it's
fun.
going to be one of those where we're like, how have we not heard of this person? Why did we not know about this? Like, yes,
Yes,
bring this to us.
exactly. And she's just so strong-willed and kind of crazy, and I really love her. It's been fun working on it.
And is this maybe next year? Do we know? Because how am I going to wait that long?
Yeah, it looks like it'll at the moment January 2027. It'll be 2 years in between books, but we'll see. It may be moved up.
Oh, that's so exciting. I love it.
Fun. It's so much fun.
Well, and I feel like your books are almost like love letters to the Big Apple. So, was that, I mean, I know you're a graduate of Columbia. I know you're based out in New York City. So, was that kind of always the plan to kind of explore these celebrated attractions on like another level? Or did it just organically happen as each successive novel was like, wait, I tend to be putting each of these in New York? Like, this is my signature. Or like, how did that fall about?
Yeah, it totally developed on its own. I wasn't thinking, okay, I'll do a landmark series. The first book was The Barbizon Hotel for Women, which just came out of a article as a journalist I wanted to write. And then I was thinking, well, that went well. So, I'd love to get in the Dakota, and this will be an excuse for me to go snoop around the Dakota.
Yeah.
And so that one happened. And then I realized, oh, this is a thing. And what I like about it is that I do a lot of research and I use that as a kind of scaffolding. And then I layer a fictional story and characters usually on top. And so it gives me a ton of freedom to do that while being very clear in the author's note of every book, what's inspired by, what's real, what's not. And so I really like it because every book is completely different. It's a standalone. Each one is in a different decade,
Yeah.
different characters. And so for me, I love having that journalistic, intense research and then playing around with it. It's the best of both worlds.
Almost kind of like August Wilson with his canon of like a book in each decade. Like this is going to be your like.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I love August Wilson plays. Yeah, I love the way he did that. You're right. I think I've pretty much covered almost every decade.
That was my next question. I'm like, have we done our canon, or what are we? Which one are we missing?
Yeah, we might be missing the 1890s, and that maybe the 1940s. I'll have to figure it out. I think, yeah. Ooh, there we go. I have to think of it that way now, not the building, but the time period.
Well, and with this specific book, I love all the fun extras and tie-ins that you have available with this book. You know, for readers and viewers who are watching, I don't know if they realize, but like it's anywhere from you can buy a signed copy at the Met gift store to your publisher has put together a scavenger hunt of the Met where they can go look for all the different antiquities that were either mentioned in the book or inspired things in the book, to even that beautiful, hauntingly beautiful song that your friend Jenny Bruce wrote, Forgotten Queen, inspired by the novel, which they can find on YouTube, the video, or they can listen to the audiobook format and hear it there. Or even the latest one that I love is the travel group Novel Travels has put together a whole tour where readers can go visit like each of the attractions that are mentioned in your books and like have a meet and greet with you and cocktails. And I just thought, wow, you have like put such a fun next level for readers to be able to engage like with your books and with you as the author. And
You've really done your homework. I am so impressed. I didn't actually realize how much I'd done until you listed it, and I thought, oh yeah. And it's all been just because it's fun. Like, you know, my dear friend Jenny Bruce is a great singer-songwriter, and it's like, oh, would you write a song, you know, inspired by the manuscript? And it's so beautiful,
so hauntingly beautiful.
Yeah, it's just fun to explore, you know, other arts forms. And yeah, the tour was absolutely fun. We did the very first one a couple weeks ago. And that was just terrific. It's been really fun just playing around because the books are interactive in a way. You know, it lures you into the location and then you can do a really deep dive, which is to me half the fun. That's basically what I did when I wrote it.
Right. Oh, it was great seeing the pictures of everything and people being on the tour. And so readers can definitely dive in through going through the Met, or they can, if they can't get to New York City, then they can, you know, check out YouTube for the song or join in on one of those tour groups or whatnot.
Yeah. And the scavenger hunt's really fun too, because it lists all of the artwork that's mentioned. Some are paintings, some are ancient artifacts. And it lists also what page they can be found on, so you can kind of mix and match.
I know now I kind of want it. When I was looking at it, I was like, oh, I kind of want to go get online and get one of those blue hippos.
Yes. Oh,
because you were holding it up in one of your videos. I said, oh, I kind of want to get the blue hippo.
Yeah, he's right over here. Don't go anywhere without him.
Yes, there it is. I'm like, I kind of want to get that now. And so when we're talking about the Stolen Queen, if we want to go back to this, I want a lot of interesting discussions and in it regarding repatriation. Like it really addressed and kind of put a spotlight on the repatriation of antiquities and art from different museum collections back to their rightful owners or countries. And so I didn't know if you could talk a little bit more about that important essential topic, or kind of what you found in your research, or when you were like talking with the Met, a little bit more about that.
Yeah. You know, there was a wonderful 3-part podcast, which I can't remember the name, all about it. And it's just so fascinating because not a lot, but some of the items in all the museums around the world were taken under nefarious circumstances because that's the way it was done. And so you have like the Benin bronzes, which were taken from what's now modern Nigeria by the British. And it was through this terrible, violent occupation where they just took anything they wanted. And so these Benin bronzes, which are really beautiful, are scattered all over the world and they want them back. But there's these questions about, you know, what if they don't have a museum to store them in? Will they just be put in storage? Will they be safe from either theft or humidity? And then what if the government needs money, so they sell them to, say, a Russian oligarch who then hides them away and no one can have access to them that way? And so there's all these questions about what to do. And the Met's been wonderfully open about it. They just hired a director of provenance, and that's his job, is to look at these pieces that are tricky and figure out where they belong and what's the right thing to do. And I don't answer the question in the book. It's too big for that.
Right.
But I felt like I had to raise it because otherwise it would be a little disingenuous because it is something that's so important in the museum world right now.
And because yeah, I feel like I've read articles where there's discussions on, for these museums who are still going to hold on to the pieces, are they going to make sure they note, about, like you said, the provenance, or that, hey, this was where it was taken or how it was taken, or are they just listing it and not talking about it? Or yeah, I feel like it's definitely been something that's been a hot topic right now. That's so important.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. It's really interesting the way they're managing it. And it's just in the news all the time now.
Well, and with this book, being kind of ancient Egyptian civilization, it was very easy to become, like, from the very start, like, submersed and enthralled and kind of like diving head deep into this land of, like you said, mummies and pharaohs and treasures and whatnot. And in the book, you kind of alluded to kind of were these generations that were inspired by the finding of King Tut and like Tutmania. And most of us, like, including me, remember going to these unforgettable traveling King Tut exhibitions. So that
Yeah.
kind of like, fueled the fervor. So I was curious what went through your mind and how blown away were you when a month after your book was published, all of a sudden in Egypt announces that they found the first royal tomb since King Tut 100 years ago. And not only that, it happened to be, and I'm going to say these names wrong,
Yep.
Thutmose the second, husband to Hatshepsut, that
Yes.
that you based two characters in your book on.
Yeah, wasn't that incredible? I know. And apparently inside the tomb, it's like they talk about Hatshepsut and that, she helped design it because that was her husband. I mean, of all things, I have people emailing me and going, "Did you know? Like,
Yeah,
did you
like,
find the book to
because
this?"
you
I
probably
said,
were
"No."
just still immersed in all that, and then to be like, how is this happening?
My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe of all things. Yeah, it's just and it's so exciting. It's such an exciting discovery for them, and the fact that it's so tied into the book just blew my mind. I couldn't believe it.
Another Egypt trip back in your future.
Yes, I was thinking that. Yeah, yeah, we'll have to go back. Yes, yeah, it was such a wonderful place to visit, and yeah, the thought that now that there's a new tomb in the Valley of the Kings is very exciting.
Well, and to the timing, like 100 years, it was like 1922 was King Tut with Howard Carter, and this was, I think they originally started seeing like the steps and the door like in 2022, like exactly 100 years. It
Oh,
was,
I didn't know that. That's fascinating. Yeah.
yeah, like well, I
Ah,
think like that's when they started kind of doing finding like the entrance and the
yeah.
steps, and then obviously it took time to then go explore the internal part of it and stuff. And I was like, it's
Yeah.
100 years, and then literally they announced it the month after your book came out, like in
Yes.
February. Your book came out in January. I was
It was crazy. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And it's so much fun watching people get back into the Egyptian mania because there is so much to learn there. And, Hatshepsut herself is such a fascinating figure. So you can do a real deep dive.
especially like I had read Isabel Ibanez's Secrets of the Nile duology, and
Yeah.
then you can read your The Stolen Queen, and then if you go to different museums and things, and then start seeing all these Egyptian artifacts after you've just kind of been submersed in these worlds of these books, I mean, you see it on a whole nother level. It affects you in a completely different way once emerging from the book, seeing it again in a new way.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and that's the way I felt doing the research because suddenly my eyes were opened to just seeing it in a whole new light. I thought I know about Egyptology. Okay. But you don't because there's so many years of it. There's 3,500 years of this ancient civilization to uncover.
It reminds me of that conversation you have in the book where they're like, why aren't there, wasn't there other ones like Italyology and Greeceology and why is it only Egyptology? And like, because it's that stunning, it's this many centuries. They were saying this one only lasted 1,000, this only lasted 1,500,
Yes.
this was 3 centuries. This is why it's Egyptology is the only one that has that. I love that.
Yes. I mean, the very fact that the pyramids were ancient to the ancient Egyptians, they were 1,000, 2,000 years old, which is the way we look at, zero, zero BC. That's
Right,
when the pyramids were created for those people back then. It's just,
right.
it kind of blows your mind, doesn't it? God.
Well, and then also in the book, you kind of address the fact of Harthacare. See, I'm going to say these names wrong. Harthacare,
You got
inspired by Hatshepsut. How she was labeled kind of as historians as, vain and a usurper, despite the fact that she was this strong, smart, powerful leader who led Egypt in a time of prosperity and creativity and accomplishment, and how she had done so much, yet she, just like so many other female giants of history, was kind of, not given the acclaim and the relevance and the importance that she deserved. And that's what I kind of love about female written, theme driven historical fiction. Because just like Charlotte in the book, you as well are putting, the relevance and importance back on these famous females and making sure they don't get erased from the pages of history, and make sure they're given the celebration and the relevance, that they deserve.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely interested in these lost contributions of women to history, and not only say Hatshepsut, but also, the archaeologist who Charlotte is based on, which is a woman, Christiane Noblecourt de Roche, who was a, incredible archaeologist who I learned about in a book by Lynn Olson, a nonfiction book. And it's like, oh wow, what about her? Like
Yeah.
we should know her name just as we know, Howard Carter's for sure.
Well, and like how many maybe female archaeologists were on some of these group excursions from
Mhm.
those way back in the day, but
Yeah.
maybe they were involved in finding things and were not given the credit either, like,
Oh, and there are many of them. It's really interesting how they were all, their contributions were taken by the men, basically.
right. Like there's probably still so many that we don't know the names of or what their contributions were to finding, just
Yes,
like book.
exactly, exactly.
Well, and then speaking of iconic women, another question, one of our final questions was, in with this book taking place in the Met, the home of the storied Met Gala event, the iconic Diana Vreeland was significantly cameoed in the book. And so I was curious of how intimidating was it to like write and make up these fictionalized like scenes and dialogue and actions. Like how did you approach crafting those when it's this iconic woman and you're having to then now put words in the mouth and actions and
Yeah, I usually do fictional people, but Deanna Vreeland is one of a kind, right? You cannot. I just thought, how do I replicate her? You can't, because she was so outspoken and interesting and just a fascinating woman in the life of the party. And so I thought, okay, I have to try and channel her if I can. And luckily, there's so much video on about her, and she had lots of writing and her sayings like, only Matisse and I know yellow, that kind of thing. So a lot of what she says in the book, she actually said, and that was really fun to just layer that
oh,
in.
trying to like interweave in things that for sure
Yep.
were quotes, then
Yes.
here to fill in the spaces.
Exactly. So I tried to so I could stay true to her as much as possible. And in the end, it was really fun because she is so strong-willed. It almost felt like she was saying to me, "Okay, do this, make her do that." And so I do feel like I sort of just channeled her, but I just love her. She was such a fun character to write and try to recreate.
Yeah, I mean, she just was so iconic. Like you said, some of those dialogues and scenes in the book were amazing. And so, where can readers? Are there more tour dates that they can find you at? Or I know obviously they can follow you on your social media for any upcoming things, but is there anything else for readers and viewers that you'd like to kind of keep engaging with the Stolen
Yeah,
Queen?
there's a lot going on there. It's been very busy and it's going to continue to be, which is great. So I'm
Yeah.
doing a lot of traveling. That's all on my website at fionadavisbooks.com. And yeah, there's some really fun events coming up, including in Indianapolis, which I
Mhm.
can't wait, with some fellow authors who I adore. So it's going to be quite a good time.
I'm kind of calling it the Queen's event this year because you have like the Stolen Queen, and then Marie Benedict's going to be there with Queens of Crime, and I'm like, it's
Yes,
the Queen's year.
I like that. I like that. Yes, we're going to have that. That works. That totally works.
And the Queens of the Pen will be there as well.
There we go. Perfect. I can't wait. It'll be wonderful.
Well, it's so great to talk with you today. Thanks so much for spending time with us talking about the Stolen Queen. Everybody, thanks for watching, and be looking at FionaDavis.com for any upcoming events. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.